3 years ago, I moved to London at age 22. I had no full-time job and every month my savings were depleting. It wasn't looking good. I desperately needed to make money. I had around 6 months runway before I had nothing left. Today, at age 25, I own my own house and I have over £100,000 in liquid assets. In this video, I'm going to be sharing 3 things that I did in order to achieve this and how you can as well. The first rule is pretty obvious, and it was something I was already doing, and that is to live below your means. You have to make sacrifices. I think saving money is a really easy thing to do. Just don't buy stupid stuff. You know, don't be a consumerist. Practice minimalism. Buy things you actually need or really want, you know, because by saving money and not buying all of the stupid things that you don't really need, you have so much to spend on big purchases, investments, things that can actually grow your wealth, and then you can make stupid purchases later on in life. Some examples of sacrifices I've made over the last 3 years include living in my wife's family's home rather than renting a flat in central London with all my friends. I've probably saved tens of thousands over the last 3 years just with that one alone. Until recently, I had a 7-year-old Samsung phone. I've got a new one more recently, just because it was working. I didn't need a new phone. What else? I haven't updated my wardrobe since about 2018, just because I haven't really felt that that was much of a priority. I'd rather put my money elsewhere, you know? You just can't focus too much on appearances. I know so many people that have spent the last few years building this facade of looking wealthy, you know what I mean? Like, they drive really expensive cars, they go out clubbing, they buy designer clothes. It's a really weird, like, epidemic. I don't know why. I see so many people my age driving like 2024 plate BMWs or Audis and just splashing money on designer clothes. And I'm just thinking, they are setting themselves back so much for the sake of enjoying themselves now. It's a really weird behavior. And I know a lot of people my age, they're gonna have a wake-up call when they turn 30. I know that's the case. The second rule is something that I spent most of my time focusing on because my saving skills were pretty good, I think, and that is to work on yourself and develop high-income skills. I've been doing this for a long time. I think it would have started maybe 2013 when I had a gaming YouTube channel and I learned Photoshop and Premiere Pro. These are really valuable skills that you'll be using all throughout your life, and you can get good careers with these skills as well. And when I was 15, 16, I learned Facebook ads and making websites on Shopify. Again, really marketable skills. And now as a trader, you know, I could get a job at a bank or a trading floor and be a lot more qualified than someone with some expensive degree, you know? These skills really last your whole life. In my side hustles today, I actually use a lot of these skills, whether that's in running this YouTube channel, managing Discord communities, or trading prop firm capital, you know? One of the prop firms I work with is 5%ers, and they're actually sponsoring this video. So if you're looking for the most reliable prop firm, they actually fund traders up to $400,000. So if you're interested, I'll put a link to them in the description below. I'm a firm believer that in your spare time, you should be working towards your dream. You know, you have your 9 to 5 where you earn your monthly salary, and then you have your 5 to 9 where you're focusing on building secondary sources of income, working on your dream, and potentially replacing that full-time job in the future. It's funny because I actually did the opposite of this advice. I already had a side income and I went ahead and got a full-time job rather than the other way around. In 2023, although I was making a good amount of money from trading, I didn't feel like I was fully utilizing the time freedom that it gave me. So when I had a remote work job offer, I decided to accept that, and I essentially doubled my income while still having the free time to work on my secondary sources of income. So this just meant I had loads more money to invest and save. It's interesting because you don't see a lot of people working on building these skills or a secondary source of income. And I think that's because it's so unrewarding. It's super unrewarding, actually. In school or in a traditional job, you're rewarded methodically at every step, you know? And when you're working towards one of these skills, you won't see results until years later sometimes. So it's really important that what you're doing is something you're passionate about, because you have to be able to enjoy the process, because you're not going to be rewarded otherwise. So if you followed the first two rules correctly, at this point you should have a lot of money, because your expenses are low, your income is high, you've got a lot of savings in here. So what do you do with all of this money? And for me, by far, the biggest contributor to my £100,000 in savings was by investing 60 to 70% of my income into the S&P 500 every month. A lot of people fail at investing in the S&P 500 because it's so boring. I think in this society, a lot of people get FOMO, they're attracted to the latest thing, and practicing discipline and just sticking to one thing isn't something you see very often. So if you do choose to invest in the S&P 500, don't get sucked into the latest tech stock or meme coin. Just invest your money every month, leave it, and forget about it. It's really as easy as that. If you're a trader, which I assume you are watching this video, it's quite easy to kind of overcomplicate this strategy as well, trying to buy at all-time lows and things like that. But it really isn't necessary in investing. Buying at all-time lows doesn't make that big of a difference, because you're holding this investment for years and years and years. Ideally, you're not selling it until you retire. There's a good saying which I like to tell new investors, which is time in the market beats time in the market. So that just means that spending a long period of time in an investment is way better than trying to time the bottoms and time the tops. So literally just buy every month. The best thing you can do is just set up a direct debit, so your monthly salary comes in, and 50% of it goes straight into S&P 500. That's the ideal scenario. I'm going to be making a more detailed video about investing in the S&P 500, because obviously right now it's such a prudent time to be doing that. That'll probably be in about a month, so when that video is released, I'll link it with a card in the top right of the screen here. Investing in index funds isn't the only way to make a long-term investment though, and I recently purchased my first investment property. Well, it's a home first. Don't tell the wife, it's an investment property as well. We bought a 250k rundown farmhouse, and we're spending about 40k renovating the property itself, and then another 30k renovating this garage which is attached to it. And the other 30k which we're investing in the garage is to turn it into an Airbnb. So the idea is that the Airbnb will contribute to our mortgage, so paying off the debt a lot faster, so we get to avoid a lot of the interest. And having invested so much in renovating the property, it's going to be worth about 450,000 when we're done, and we'll have invested only 70,000. So all in, we're about 320 grand, and the property will be worth about 450 grand. So refinancing it at about 85%, we should be able to pull out about 160,000 pounds, which will be in a few years. This is the plan, doesn't always go to plan. And then we'll be able to use that 160,000 pounds towards a second property, or maybe even two, a second and a third property. So there are other ways. You don't have to invest in stocks, you can also invest in property. So those are my 3 rules on reaching your first £100,000, but there is one bonus tip that I've got just to help you along the way. And that is to track your finances. What's measured is managed is an old saying. You don't have to be like me. I have a Google Sheets or like an Excel spreadsheet. So you don't have to be like as geeky as me. You can just get like, I think there's like Emma and Monarch Money, these different money management apps. Anyway, the point of this is just for the sake of accountability. So every week when you're tracking your finances, you have to take accountability. If you've spent £30 on something stupid, you can't just trust yourself. You have to, it's a form of a journal really. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to have that accountability, make sure that you're spending money in the right places, and that you've got the right amount of money coming in as well. It also highlights areas for improvement, places where you can spend a little bit less, or even places where you can spend a little bit more. For example, if I spent a little bit less on Just Eat every month, then I could probably afford to do my weekly shop at Waitrose instead of Tesco, which would be a big quality of life improvement, Another benefit is it's quite rewarding. You know, I was talking about how side hustles and secondary sources of income can be super unrewarding. Well, tracking your finances in Google Sheets or something is probably the only source of dopamine that you'll get from saving money. So that's another key benefit to doing that. So reaching your first 100,000 in savings really is as easy as spend less, earn more, and invest. You do those three things and I guarantee you'll be a millionaire. It is as simple as that. I think people overcomplicate it, but that's all you need. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. It's a little bit different to the trading videos I normally make, so please let me know if you found this interesting or helpful. Comment this emoji to show me that you made it to the end. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and thanks for watching.